Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome friends. This is 19th lecture in this course on political parties and party system in India. In this lecture today we are going to discuss about the ways and means to reform Indian political parties. In the previous lecture we have discussed the various challenges or the criticism that was labelled against the political parties. In this lecture, we will particularly focus on the needs of reform and different proposals to reform the political parties from say Law Commission or Election Commission of India or from many scholars, and also different methods or approach for reforming Indian political parties, such as party funding or ensuring intra-party democracy, transparency and due election for the party position. So, these are some of the things which we are going to discuss in this lecture today, where the effective, democratic and well organized political parties are absolutely necessary for success of any democracy. So, for the success of any democracy requires a well organized, effective and a democratic political parties. So, the nature of the political parties or their functioning or the effective organizational ability to a great extent determine the success of democracy in any country. It provides a platform to various groups and communities to articulate their concern and participate in the political process. So, in India also many social tensions or conflict or challenges have been resolved by the parties through giving representation to those voices which were not represented or not adequately represented. So, political parties in first instance provide a platform to various groups and communities to represent their voice, to articulate their interest and demands, and then to fulfill those demands and interest by participating in the political process. So, if you look at the evolution of political parties in India and the rise of many political parties, particularly in 70s, 80s and 90s, on the basis of many social cleavages, is a reflection of these parties to ensure the adequate or sufficient representation of unrepresented groups or marginalized groups in the society. So, parties in India also provides then the representation for those who are not adequately represented. It is also the mechanism through which power is controlled and exercised in a democracy. So, power is circular in a sense that it is not hereditary. That means, unlike monarchy where the nature of the power was hereditary, in democracy there are possibility of different parties coming to power and exercising those powers. So, all the political parties compete among each other to control the power and exercise the power. So, the whole electoral or competitive political struggle is about controlling the power through legitimate means, that is by winning the election and once it controls the power, it tries to exercise it to implement its own policies and issue which on which it fight election. So, parties remain a very crucial mechanism for the control and exercise of power in a democracy, and it provides alternative to electorates. It mobilizes them in support of its policies and programs and set the agenda during the election. So, political parties in a democracy tries to provide alternative. That means, if the electorates do not have choice, then there cannot be a genuine democracy. The very requirement of democracy is that there is competitive struggle within the provision of law for the control and exercise of power among the parties, and electorates have enough choice while they exercise their right to vote. So, political parties then articulate their policies and put before the electorates and provide them alternative among different parties to choose from, and therefore, the whole campaign or the party activities is to mobilize the support among the electorates to its policies and programs, and it also set the agenda during the political campaigning. So, political parties therefore plays many important roles, and their effective functioning ensure the success or the vibrant nature of democracy in any society. However, given the functioning and state of political parties in contemporary India, there are genuine concern for its reforms. So, that said about how political parties provide a mechanism to control and exercise power, give representation to the unrepresented, or formulate the policies and provide policy alternatives to the electorates. The contemporary state of political parties and the nature of its functioning requires certain reforms among the political parties, and why such reforms are required we have discussed in the previous lecture, the various challenges that confronts the political parties in India. So, without reforming the political party, it would be difficult to resolve some of the challenges that Indian democracy as a whole is facing, be it corruption, criminalization of politics, or lack of transparency. So, to ensure a corruption free politics without the involvement of candidates from criminal backgrounds or transparency in the exercise of power, it is absolutely necessary to reform political parties, particularly the way it functions within the sphere of influence or within its own organization, and how it interacts with other political parties in the larger party system. So, many challenges and ills of democracy in the country can be more effectively addressed by reforming the political parties. So, to reform the political parties is therefore absolutely necessary to make Indian democracy more effective, more inclusive, more accommodative, transparent, and corruption free or free from the criminal background of the candidates or the politician. However, politician and to a certain extent common masses too feel that party system or party reforms are inconsequential, even when law commission and the various committees of the government and its institutions such as election commission have put forward the report for reforming the structure and functioning of the political parties. So, there are demands for reforming the political parties, and many scholars argue that for the effective functioning of democracy, it is absolutely necessary to reform political parties. However, for many politicians and to a great extent for the larger electorates or the citizen in the country, reforming the political parties are of less consequential, even when there are law commission reports or the proposal from the election commission to reform the political parties and its functioning. And this is perhaps the biggest irony, where majority of the electorates want to have an effective, transparent, corruption free and criminal free political system, and yet they do not seek as seriously or put pressure on the political parties to reform from within. And that is some of the biggest challenge in Indian democracy and Indian polity today. And therefore, reforming the political parties would be necessary, a slow and laborious process. That means, the nature of politics or the way parties operates is to a large extent reflection of the society itself or the social acceptability itself. So, one should not always put onus of reform to politicians and political parties. It is equally responsible on the part of electorates to put pressure on the political parties for reform or delegitimize certain practices such as corruption or bribery or criminal phases in the party. So, once they stop voting for, say, the candidate from criminal background, now in the election affidavits, it is in public domain that the data about the criminal backgrounds or the assets of different candidates are there before the electorates. Now, if they continue to vote on, say, caste lines or religious lines or linguistic lines, or they make a difference between your candidate had the criminal backgrounds, you voted for them, why you ask us now not to vote for our candidates having criminal background. So, these kind of social tendencies, practices and acceptability to a large extent influence the functioning of the political parties, and therefore, the reforming of political parties will be a long and slow laborious process because of this heterogeneity and plural nature of in society, where many ills or the corrupt practices in the political parties to a great extent is reflective of the acceptability of such practice by the larger electorates. Nonetheless, there is the growing consensus about the needs of the political reforms, and in this lecture we will discuss how and through which mechanism such reforms can be brought about. First, to reform the political parties, it is absolutely necessary to make party funding more transparent. So, election and party funding in India remains opaque, black money driven, and recent reforms introduced by government such as electoral bonds have made the situation even more opaque. So, all the parties are involved in such practices of receiving donation from the anonymous sources or the use of black money in electoral expenditure, and these recent reforms that is introduced by the government such as electoral bonds have made the whole process of funding the parties and election even more opaque and worrisome for the many other parties and scholars and the state institution as well. The reason for having regulation or the transparency in party funding is the growing cost of election, which has gone up by many folds, and parties required huge funds to conduct various activities. So, increasingly the election or electoral campaigning has become extremely expensive, so much so that it prevent those candidates having clean image or but limited resources to join the politics or enter the electoral politics. So, parties do require huge amount of funds to remain relevant or to run effective campaign in the electoral competitive struggle for power. Therefore, for getting those funds, one of the biggest funding for the political parties comes from corporate funding at different stages. So, in the contemporary politics, the manufacturing or the real sector are the largest contributor to the political parties. So, there is no need to abandon the corporate funding. What is required is to regulate it and make the party funding more transparent, and therefore, by law there is a provision of corporate funding, that is, a company in existence for more than 3 years can give a maximum of 5% of its net profit as donation to political parties. So, this law governs the party funding. However, such transactions remain largely opaque, and party receives fund from various anonymous sources, which affect the level playing field for many parties. So, the very success or the prospect of winning the election remains on the party ability to mobilize the fund or to increase its financial resources to run an effective political campaign, and the party which do not have those resources, they do not run such effective electoral campaign in comparison to those with the huge resources under its command. So, Election Commission of India has demanded that every such donation, that is every corporate donation, should be made public. So, people should know which corporates, which industries donate for which party and how much. At the present, this transaction or the corporate donation remains opaque. So, a funding below 20,000 is not made public. There is now demand by the Election Commission of India that amount should be reduced to 2,000. However, in the recent introduction of electoral bonds, it has made the whole funding process of parties even more opaque. So, recently there has been a huge controversy regarding electoral bonds introduced by Government of India in 2017, and in the same year limits set on corporate funding, that was 5% of their net profit, was done away with. So, now there is no limit to the corporate funding. It may go into crores and not necessary in proportion to the profit of the party. And also now political parties can receive funding from the foreign sources. So, electoral bonds was introduced to protect the donor by keeping his, her or their identity anonymous. This, in the eyes of many scholars and government institutions such as RBI and Election Commission of India too, make the whole funding process even more opaque and leads to domination by corporates and the big business houses. So, whole idea is to make the electoral politics representative of the people voices. That is possible when the level playing field are made available to every party that claims to represent the electorates. If such level playing field is denied or skewed in the benefit of those party which commands more resources, that already lose some trust deficit in the whole electoral process, and there are the donors, the corporates or the big industries having contributed to the parties in its electoral campaign, the chances are in terms of policy when that party form the government, they will give a return benefit to those corporates or the industries which have funded for their electoral campaign. So, there are the serious revision or thinking about making the whole party funding more transparent. If you look at the scale of this anonymous donation, we can understand it from this report by Association for Democratic Right, where it is stated that the 6 national parties in India declared an income of 1559 crores in the year of 2016 and 17. Rupees 711 crore of or 46% of the donation came from unknown sources such as through sale of coupons, relief funds, miscellaneous income, voluntary contribution and contribution from the meanings. That makes the whole exercise a opaque or a kind of complete anonymous or secretive for any public scrutiny or a better choice that an electorate can make. So, there is the argument of the state funding funding for election to keep the criminals and undue influence of big corporates out of political process. So, one of the reason democracy is seen as the most desirable form of government is that it represent the voice to the people. However, if the whole and the election is the important mechanism through which different parties form the government or acquire the power or compete for that power. However, if these parties receives fund from the corporates or the candidates from the criminal backgrounds, it is less likely that once it form the government, it will represent the every interest of the every section of the society. So, to keep out this undue influence of criminals or the big corporates, there is the demand or recommendation for state funding of election, which is practiced in many countries in Europe, North America and so on. It is also required to retain the public trust on the electoral process. So, election should not become the only basis for judging the election, but how level playing fields are made available to different parties is also the criteria to understand the genuineness or the fairness of the electoral process and the public trust in that system. Particularly for the newer political parties, it becomes very difficult to mobilize resources to enter and run effective campaign and competitive in the competitive electoral politics, and therefore, there is the demand that the state funding of election will enable the level playing field for different parties, particularly those who are new in the electoral arena. So, state funding of election has the potential to cleanse the system of black money and criminal influences. It may also help the honest candidate and party dedicated to public service to join politics. So, other benefit of state funding of election is that it will allow the candidate with clean image, but limited resources with commitment to the public services join the politics. In the present structure of party functioning or distribution of tickets to the candidates, it is the largely the wealth and the winnability that determines such distribution. However, if there is a state funding, there is more likelihood of people with clean image or dedication to public service getting preference over those with the criminal backgrounds and so on. However, there are various concerns raised by the many stakeholders about the state funding of election. For instance, Election Commission of India has argued that state funding without any check to corporate donation and black money in election would won't clean the system. So, to cleanse the system, it is utmost requirement of the government to first regulate the whole corporate donation or the corporate transaction and the role of black money in the funding of political parties and their electoral campaign. Without regulating these transactions or making them transparent, state funding of election will not cleanse the system, and that is the first requirement. When political parties and its funding comes from transparent sources and those sources are known to the people, then these parties can also strive to bring transparency in the larger institutional structure of the or the governing structure of the country. So, various government committees and commissions too have argued that state funding of elections should be considered only when party ensured internal democracy and complete transparency in their financial affairs. So, one of the basis when one accept the state funding of election is to ensure that the party which receives the state funding for election must ensure internal democracy and complete transparency in its financial affairs and transaction. So, transparency follows from this funding for the parties or state funding for the election, where parties are seen as pivotal in the functioning of democracy in India, and therefore, in order to bring transparency in the functioning of Indian democracy, it is necessary that parties conduct its business in an open and transparent manner. So, without party conducting its business or its function in an open and transparent manner, it is perhaps futile to expect the party, when it comes to power, function in a open and transparent manner. So, it requires that parties maintain. So, the transparency requires that the parties maintain a record of all its transactions, whether it is financial and otherwise, which should be open to public scrutiny. So, one of the characteristic of a democratic functioning or democratic system of governance are the institution or the leaders responsible in the responsible position, the decisions they take are subject to public scrutiny. So, similarly, the functioning of the parties and their transactions should be made open for public scrutiny to bring about transparency in party decisions, in allocation of seats, in the ways in which decisions are made, and so on. The parties should reveal the identity of their donors to ensure transparency, and many parties are undertaking initiatives regarding transparency in terms of providing information about the parties, its constitution, organizational structure, manifestos, ideology, and so on, for the public to be informed or to compare and then make an informed choice about supporting a party or not supporting a party, and so on. So, there are initiatives in this direction in terms of putting information in public domain, and in this information age, the party can function secretively at their own peril, whereas sharing the information with the public will go a long way in earning public trust for the party and also for the democratic institution in general. So, when as we have discussed that the political parties are necessary for the functioning of democracy, when the electorates we have seen having greater trust in the institution of the government or the state, at the same time not having same level of trust in the political party. And now with transparency and the initiative that brings about transparency in the functioning of the political parties, its funding and the financial transaction, it will increase the trust of the electorates in the party, which will lead to increased trust in the democratic system of a state and its functioning as a whole. So, one of the effective ways to bring about transparency in the functioning of political party is to bring them under the purview of Right to Information Act. However, many political parties do not agree to bringing the political parties under the purview of Right to Information Act. Other ways of reforming the political party is to ensure the intra-party democracy or the inner democracy within the party. Lack of intra-party democracy adversely affect the functioning of democracy in a country. So, it is a contradiction where party operates in an undemocratic manners, whereas it tries to democratize the state and institution and make it more inclusive and representative, whereas within its own sphere it does not work on those principles or those ideals. So, internal functioning of party remains shielded from the public scrutiny. So, for most of the parties in India, be it regional or national, their internal decision making or functioning remains shielded from the public scrutiny. So, people do not know the decision making process or how or who takes decision on which issue and so on. It leads to weakening of the organizational structure of the party and increasing dependence on the leader. So, this lack of democratic functioning in the party leads to the weakening of organizational structure in the party on the one hand, where different bodies or different leaders, different levels of its organization do not feel the democratic stake or a kind of sense of participation in the decision making process, and more willing to move out when opportune times come to other parties to seek their personal interest and not the interest of their party or the ideology that their party represent. So, the lack of internal democracy or intra-democracy weakens the organizational structure on the one hand and increase the dependence of the party on its leader, who take most of the decisions in the party. So, if you look at the most of the regional parties or a party dominated by one family or one dynasty, their decision making process are opaque, shielded from the public scrutiny, and do not inspire confidence among their followers, and thereby the organizational ability or the structure of such party remain very weak in comparison to the party where there is participation in the decision making or open or transparent discussion on various issues. Even new it also lead to different factions forming their own party. So, it happens in Janata Party or in Congress Party and also in the Communist Party of India, that such lack of participation leads to different factionalism within the party, and that factions gradually move out of the party to form their own party. Even newly emerging groups tend to form their own party instead of joining the existing one. So, if a party and its organization operates in a democratic manner, there are less there is more chance of newly emerging groups and leaders joining the existing one rather than creating a new party for its own. But in India, the situation is reverse, where the new parties or the new leaders prefer to form their own party rather than joining the existing one. Even many leaders move out of the old party to form their own parties because of the lack of transparency and their sense of helplessness in terms of their role and participation in the decision making of their party. So, a strong, disciplined and democratically structured political party is less likely to circumvent the parliamentary and democratic procedure when they form the government. So, the exposure to the democratic ways of functioning, the leaders or the politicians learn in their party. So, once they know the democratic method of debates and discussion and taking decision, they are more likely to continue the same method when they form the government and when they get the responsible position. However, in the most of the parties where there is a lack of or absence of democratic mechanism, the leaders or the party when it comes to power are more likely to circumvent the democratic norms and the parliamentary established procedure when it comes to form the government. So, lack of intra-party democracy leads to arbitrariness, uncertainties and absence of deliberation, which breeds factionalism and splits in the party. So, in many political parties there is the arbitrary method of taking decisions, uncertainties among its various factions and the followers about the key decision in the party, and this absence of deliberation breeds open deliberation or democratic discussion breeds factionalism and splits in party, and many parties suffer from such splits and factionalism. And there are good reasons, particularly from the point of view of the leaders, to not to institutionalize procedure in the party. So, for a leader to maintain his control or her control over the party affair, it is good or desirable to not to institutionalize procedure or have democratic method of the functioning of the parties, as he, she or they, those who are in the leadership position would like to have as much control over the party as possible when it comes to selecting the candidates, setting the agendas, defining party position on various social political issue and so on. So, the leadership would like to have more say and dominating position when it comes to take decisions about the selection of candidates, setting the agenda for the party and defining the party position on various social political issues. So, it is in their interest to not to institutionalize democracy in the party. However, these have negative implication on the party in the long term, as many parties must aspire to survive beyond the lifespan of its leader, and therefore, the organizational structure is absolutely necessary for the survival of party beyond the lifespan of its leader. That can be achieved only when there is the institutionalization of democratic procedure in its functioning. So, intra-party democracy will prevent splits and fragmentation of political parties too, and will make party leaders more accountable and also enhance the quality of debates and deliberation on various public political issue within the party and outside as well. The next way to reform the political party is to conduct election for the party positions. One of the challenges before the political parties in India that is related to intra-party democracy is absence of genuine election for the party position. So, all the party do share the information with the Election Commission of India about its office bearers and how they are elected, but these elections are largely a kind of token or symbolic, where most of the prominent position in the party is always exclusively reserved for what is called consensus candidate. Such candidates are mostly from the same family or nominated by the party oligarchs. So, there is the absence of competition among different leaders for the prominent position in the party, where largely they are appointed by consensus and not through genuine election in a free and fair manner. This not only deprive the rise of fresh leadership in the party, but also prevent the intra-party democracy, and it do not adequately represent the various strata in the society in the long term, weaken the party prospect of expansion beyond its traditional vote bank. Now, if we look at certain recommendation by the institution of state such as Law Commission in India, in its 170th report, Law Commission states that if democracy and accountability constitute the core of our constitutional system, the same concepts must also apply and bind the political parties. So, the principle or the ideals of democracy and accountability, that is the constituting core of Indian democracy or Indian constitutional system, it must also apply to the political parties and its functioning. Precisely because these political parties are integral to the parliamentary democracy, it is the political parties that form government, man the parliament and run the governance of the country. So, if they perform such a responsible task, they must subject itself to the principle of democracy and accountability in its own functioning. It is therefore necessary to introduce internal democracy, financial transparency and accountability in the working of political parties. So, the Law Commission 170th report that it is necessary for the political parties to ensure internal democracy, financial transparency and accountability in its working, as they play a very responsible role in the functioning of parliamentary democracy in India. And a political party which does not respect democratic principle in its internal working cannot be exposed to respect those principles in the governance of the country. So, if there is a lack of democracy within the party, it cannot be expected to uphold democracy when it forms the government, and therefore, it is absolutely necessary that the inner structure or the functioning of the party should be guided by democratic or accountability in its decision making or in its functioning. It cannot be dictatorship internally and democratic in its functioning outside. So, it is not possible to have a democratic decision making or functioning when it forms the government, and autocratic ways of functioning within the party. It must be democratic internally to be democratic outside, to ensure democracy outside. So, 170th report of Law Commission categorically states that the party system or the functioning of the party must be reformed according to the principle of democracy and accountability, where it should ensure the internal democracy, financial transparency and accountability in the in its functioning or in its decision making. Similarly, National Commission for Review of the Working of the Constitution, in its report that was submitted in 2002, recommends certain reforms measures for the political parties and its reform. It recommended compulsory registration of every political party or pre-poll alliance, and for such registration following rules should be imposed, it recommended. First, allegiance to the basic constitutional values, open door to all citizens irrespective of any distinctions on the basis of caste or community. 30% of the reservation for the women in the organizational position of the party, and compulsory maintenance of accounts and annual audit of the funds, mandatory declaration of the assets and liabilities by the candidates for filling nomination for the parliament and the state assembly elections. So, these recommendations are also for the reforms of the political parties. One of its recommendation about the declaration of assets and liabilities along with the criminal records was given by the Supreme Court in its verdict in 2002, and since then all the candidates filing nomination for the assembly or the parliament declared their assets and also their criminal background. If you look at the role of election commissions, Commission of India and its recommendation for the electoral reforms, its role has been proactive and widely praiseworthy in not just conducting the free and fair elections regularly, but also because of its proactive role in bringing about transparency in the functioning of political parties, source of their funding, and monitoring their electoral campaigning and expenditures. So, through its initiative like Model Code of Conduct, rigorous auditing of the electoral expenditure of the parties, mandatory declaration of the criminal cases and personal assets in the election affidavits, Election Commission of India has ensured a degree of accountability in the functioning of political parties. In the recent decades, it has begun to take more proactive approach by targeting the voter awareness. So, one of the ways in which political parties can be reformed when there is a pressure from the electorates, and to do that Election Commission of India is now increasingly taking steps to make the electorates aware about the backgrounds of different candidates, their criminal cases or the assets. Now, it depends on the electorates to put pressure on the party to give tickets to those with the clean image, and if they continue to vote for the people having criminal backgrounds, it is not completely correct to expect the political parties to reform on its own. So, in the recent decades there is a shift in the election commission to target the electorates, to make them aware about different political parties, their functioning, the backgrounds of their candidates, and then take informed decision when they exercise their right to vote. So, in its 2016 proposed electoral reforms, EC has also suggested certain reforms relating to political parties, such as prohibition of anonymous donation to political parties, which is now institutionalized through the electoral bonds, where Election Commission and also Law Commission recommended that every donation to the party should be made public, making bribery in election as cognizable offence, compulsory maintenance of accounts by the political parties, and accounting and auditing report of the political parties, cap on the expenditure of the political parties on a candidate for election campaign, and ceiling of campaign expenditure by the political parties. These are some of the reforms which Election Commission of India has put before the government, and it has yet to take a call on them. So, ESI has also proposed that persons charged with cognizable offence shall be debarred from contesting election at the stage when the charges are framed by the competent court, provided that the offence is punishable by imprisonment of at least 5 years and the case is laid at least 6 months prior to the election in the question. So, it also tries to curb the entry of candidate with criminal background in the politics. To conclude, then it is of utmost importance to reform the political parties, their functioning, source of their funding, in order to make them an important pillar of democratic culture in the country. So, political parties, precisely because of its responsible role in the democratic process, it has an onus to ensure that within and outside it promotes democratic culture, democratic method of debate and discussion, decision through consensus and so on. It can be done by the proactive self regulation by the political parties themselves. So, one way of reforming or promoting the democratic functioning or democratic culture in the country is by proactive self regulation by the political parties themselves. There are also legal, judicial and institutional framework which can play an important role in reforming the political parties, and some of these which we have discussed in terms of Election Commission of India, Law Commission reports and some of the Supreme Court verdicts as well. So, legal, judicial and institutional framework can also play an important role in reforming political parties, and various laws and legislation, particularly the many initiatives undertaken by the Election Commission of India, have ensured a certain degree of control and regulation over the functioning of political parties and their electoral campaigning. However, what is perhaps equally important is change among the electorates as well. As we have said that the party functions and operates in a society, and the preference or the acceptability of the electorates to a great extent affect the decision making or the functioning of the political parties. So, if the electorates delegitimize certain practices, it is automatically having influence, or it forces the political parties to change its functioning or its ways of taking decisions accordingly. So, it would be wrong to accuse political parties and its leader for the various wrongdoings and ills that exist in Indian democracy. It is not that, as K.C. Suri puts it, we have vicious parties in a virtuous society. The decay among the parties and leaders also should be seen in the overall decay that had set in our society, in bureaucracy, judiciary, business and academic institution. So, it is not correct to blame political parties for all the wrongdoings and all the ills, because such ills and wrongdoings are also prevalent in many other institutions and society at large. Without curbing them, it is not possible to force the political parties and expect them to change their method of functioning. So, according to Sastry 2014, there is no dearth of well thought out advice on issue of election expenses, criminalization, voter registration and conduct of election. The will to implement them is not there as yet. So, there are lots of discussion about how to reform political parties. What is lacking is the will to do that. Here again civil society can play a catalytic role by carefully studying these recommendations and highlighting them to build public opinion. This is, however, a long and slow process which requires reform in the society and among the preference of the electorates as a whole. So, thus reforming the political parties should be part of reforming the larger society and various institutions of the state. Without achieving that, it would be an uphill task to reform political parties. They will give tickets to criminal or wealthy if they find their winnability are higher and electorates accept them. So, therefore, public awareness and their participation in the electoral process are crucial for reforming the political parties and also for the success of Indian democracy. So, reforming the political parties in other ways, in other words, have the self regulating mechanism among the party and also certain legal an institutional framework to regulate and to reform, but more than that what it requires is a change in the preference or awareness among the electorates themselves, and their pressure then will force the party to change its ways to become more democratic, transparent in its functioning and in its organization. So, that is all on this reforming the political parties in India. In this lecture, you can refer to these texts to understand more about how to reform political parties in India. So, Devesh, Kapoor and Milan Vaishnav, The Cost of Democracy is a good text to understand the party funding, the growing cost of election and its implication on the party functioning and democracy. Similarly, Pratap Bhanu Mehta, Reform Political Parties First, and also Election Commission of India document proposed electoral reforms in 2016. Besides Joya Hassan, MP Singh and Rekha Divakar, you should also refer to texts like Trilochan Shastri, Civil Society, Indian Elections and Democracy Today, and K.C. Suri, Parties Under Pressure, Political Parties in India Since Independence, Ruchika Singh, Intra-Party Democracy and Indian Political Parties. You should also refer to understand how to reform political parties and how to solve many challenges that these parties are facing. So, that is all in this lecture today. I hope you liked it. Do share your comments and feedbacks. Thanks for your patience and thanks for listening. Thank you all.